Can you guess my favorite episode of season 4? Hello, welcome back to my channel, Screaming Firehawks. This is Asha Media TV. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Asha. This is my channel where I like to watch, react, and review a variety of stuff related to sci-fi, fantasy, and comic books. So, in today's video, finally, I am going to rank the episodes of Season 4 of The Expanse. But before I get to rolling with my ranking, I'm just going to make sure that certain things are very clear to those of you, especially if you're new to my channel. Number 1! This is a spoiler-filled video. Spoilers ahead related to The Expanse TV show. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. Spoilers ahead. And the second thing that I want to make very clear, just in case if you are new to my channel, you're not familiar with my style, you haven't seen previous ranking videos of the episodes I've done before, such as for Season 3, which I did not too long ago, I just want to make it clear that this is not meant to be an in-depth analysis or serious analysis of each episode related to the books, which I have not read, and that makes a big difference in how I interpret what I've seen or how I perceive certain things in the television show. Okay, so let me just put that out there as somewhat of a quasi-disclaimer, all right? Now, before I start my visual presentation of my ranking of these episodes for Season 4, I just want to remind you that I have done it the same way I've done for Season 3, just tweaked it a little bit differently though, but either way, it's the same format. So I start off with giving you the ranking number, the episode title, an informal summary of some of the bullet points from the episode, certain scenes and stuff. And then I share the main scene or sequence of scenes that I have taken note as the most memorable from that episode. So now that you know that, here is my pick at number 10. Episode 6, Displacement. Despite the shocking news of finding out an island exploded on the other side of Illis, or Bobby raking in some mad cash and getting a little bit of lovin' on the side, or the Proto causing every ship's fusion drive to shut down, or even Bobby risking her life to complete a heist for her crew. Despite some of those fascinating scenes, the main part of this episode I enjoyed the most was Holden heroically closing the entry into the ruins in the nick of time, right before a massive tsunami crashes in. I thought this scene was very fitting with how Holden is considered the White Knight of The Expanse. And it just seemed like the kind of thing Holden would do without hesitation and at his own expense. At number 9, Episode 3, Subduction. Despite the political tensions rising between Avasarala and Nancy Gao, or a freakish blast of lightning striking the Belters' camp, or Murtry spying on Belters who are preparing to avenge Coop's death, or even Bobby's nephew David being held hostage unless she leaves the dock door open for thieves. Despite some of those tense scenes, the main part of this episode that surprised me the most was Holden's decision to drop a torpedo on the spinning structures protruding from the ground on Illis. In Episode 2, with guidance from Investigator Miller, Holden activated something alarming at the Proto-based monument. So, at this point, although I completely understand and agree with Holden's intentions, I also couldn't help but feel the same panic Dr. Elvey showed with his decision to possibly make things worse by attacking these alien formations. At number 8, Episode 1, New Terra. Despite Avasarala sending Holden and the Rossi crew to Illis to investigate the proto-related monuments, or seeing Amos engage in a delightful and surprising conversation with Clarissa Mao, or Proto Miller reappearing and hitching a ride through the ring with Holden, or even Naomi taking her first steps on a gravity-filled atmosphere. Despite some of those awesome scenes, the main part of this episode that had me saying, "What the fuck?" along with the other characters, was the sudden attack of metallic spikes. After all the brilliantly executed exposition in this season premiere episode, it was like the showrunners were reminding me that I was watching The Expanse. And those proto-molecule related, unidentified flying objects was their way of saying, "Hey Asha, welcome back to the show." At number 7, Episode 5, Oppressor. Despite learning more about Lucia's involvement in the attack on the Edward Israel, or watching Jacob tear into a distressed Lucia about her crimes and their missing daughter, or Holden telling everyone the truth about the proto-molecule and proto-Miller, or even Naomi's inspiring and deep conversation with Lucia that I enjoyed very much. Despite those tear-jerking scenes, the main part of this episode that had my eyes popping out of my head was Alex's reaction to seeing a massive nuclear-like explosion taking place on Illis. The squabble between Murtry's camp and the Belters was reaching a boiling point. Every beat of this episode was intense, and just when I thought nothing could be more upsetting than this tribal warfare, again, the show reminds me that there's a bigger and more dangerous problem at hand. At number 6, Episode 4, Retrograde. Despite Murtry's bloodthirsty executions of troublemaking Belters, or his savage hunt for Lucia and Naomi, or Holden's restrained wrath towards Murtry's unproductive actions, or even the introduction of the "too hot for TV, I know you're bad news, but you can have my number, Marco Inaros." Despite some of those heart-pumping scenes, the main part of this episode that had my jaw drop in shock was when Bobby confesses to her foreman about being the one that left the door open for theft. Listen, I knew Bobby was an honest person, but up until this point in the episode, I hadn't realized how strong her code of honor was. I mean, she was ready to possibly lose her job, but instead, to her surprise and dismay, her foreman's like, cool, what else can we sell? Go figure, right? At number 5, Episode 7, A Shot in the Dark. Despite Christian's increasing political struggles with Nancy Gao, or the mystery of Holden's immunity to a fast-spreading eye infection, or Lucia's risky idea to save the Barba Piccola ship and the precious ore it's carrying, or even the terrible tragedy and trap that befell everyone on the UN Marines' raid of the Belters' Pazuzu vessel. Despite some of those nail-biting scenes, the main part of this episode that just blew my mind was the horrifying news from Dr. Elvie about everyone having less than a day left before they all go blind except for Holden. At this point in the series, the show has mainly shown a lot of crazy alien-like stuff happening related to the protomolecule. So, the description of foreign green microbes munching on human eyes was just terrifying. Heck, the prospect of this grim reality was so alarming that even the formidable Amos was visibly shaken when Holden informed him about it. At my number 4 spot, Episode 9, Seculum. Despite the consciousness of the real Joe Miller coming back to help destroy the protomolecule, or Amos begrudgingly needing to put down his beloved Chandra Wee to save Holden, or Holden's interesting Wild Wild West standoff with Murtry, or even the amazing superhero moment with Naomi saving Lucia from free-floating in space. Despite some of those gripping scenes, the main part of this episode was seeing Miller merge himself with metal pieces to create some kind of physical form and communicate with Dr. Elvie. In a nutshell, as my memoji card indicates, nothing could have prepared me for the visual spectacle of this scene. And what makes this part even funnier after the fact is finding out that in the books, the metal thing Miller makes for himself was actually much larger, and Holden hops on and rides it. Just imagine if they tried adapting that to TV. I know for sure they would have given Doctor Who a run for its money. Alright people, so we are now down to my top 3. Have you figured out which episode is at my number 1 spot? Either way, let's continue with my pick at number 3. Episode 2, Jetsam. Despite the eyebrow-raising tension increasing between Medina Station and the UN forces, or Amos becoming pillow buddies with Chandra Wee, or Murtry shooting Coop, one of the leading belters in the camp, in cold blood, or even Holden opening a new Pandora's box by awakening something strange and scary on Illis. Despite some of those eye-popping scenes, the main part of this episode that got me doing mental cartwheels of joy was when Bobby finds her nephew David making illegal drugs and caught up with a bunch of thugs, the leader of them being his supposed girlfriend, Lily. Of course, what makes these scenes so much fun and rewind-worthy is Bobby kicking ass. We know Bobby is highly skilled in combat, so to see her without her marine armor as a normal civilian wiping out an entire gang of tough-looking goons, now that's the kind of stuff that great TV action is made of. At number 2, Episode 10, Cibola Burn. Despite the phenomenal opening shot, with Dr. Elvie's experience with the angry eye of God, as Miller puts it, or Nancy Gao winning the race as the new UN Secretary General, or Amos's crazy eyes moment right before he starts his beatdown on Murtry, or the reveal of a grown-up Philip Inaros following in the footsteps of his too-hot-for-TV dad, or even the "Holy shit, Marco has launched an asteroid disguised as Martian stealth tech to Earth" moment. Despite some of those shocking scenes, the main part of this episode that dumbfounded me the most was Ashford's surrender that eventually led to his death sentence. It was on my second watch of this episode that I noted how truly noble and somewhat heroic Ashford's death was. You see, on my first watch, I was mainly bothered that he hesitated in killing Marco as soon as he had eyes on him. I mean, this boss man came in that place guns blazing like a frickin' rock star. So why did he give up so quickly once he had Marco in sight? But regardless of that, and after rewinding this sequence of scenes a couple more times, I've concluded that Ashford had no intentions of killing Marco the moment he knew Philip Inaros, Naomi's son, was holding a gun to his head. Ashford had mentioned earlier on in the episode that when you kill a person, you're inviting revenge from those that follow and love them. In this case, he understood that Philip would avenge his father's death. Also, I think in this specific moment here, right after Marco introduces Philip as his son, Ashford knew any violence against Philip would have a terrible ripple effect back to Naomi, his mother, and even Drummer, whom I think at that point he cared for deeply beyond just friendship. Overall, Ashford also made it clear numerous times in this series that he no longer believed violence was the only solution, because all it does is create more violence. Therefore, I believe Ashford's death was ultimately a deliberate sacrifice to spare Philip from having his blood on his hands, and also subverting Marco's expectations of him. And at my number one spot, my top pick episode of season 4, Episode 8, The One-Eyed Man. Despite Christian's heated argument with her husband, or the blow-up between Fred and Drummer leading her to quit working for him, or Bobby's wake-up call about the seeming end of Martian prosperity, or the resurfacing of Amos's emotional childhood trauma, or even the "oh my god, Drummer's smiling and laughing right now" moment. Despite some of those heart-tugging scenes, the main part of this episode that astounded me the most was the revelation that Holden's anti-cancer meds were the reason he was immune to the eye infection. I loved how Holden wasn't immune for reasons that had anything to do with his connection to the protomolecule or protomiller. Ever since his radiation exposure on Eros, he's been taking those drugs. And because this show is so dang awesome, they even made it a point to show him taking those drugs right before he entered the ring on his way to Illis. All the other 9 episodes are dominant with their standard dramatic, violent, or ominous twists and turns. Hence why, as I had said in my reaction video, this episode stands out the most for me because it's the only one that showcased multiple moments of joyful outcomes, starting with Naomi, Lucia, Alex, and Felsia working together to successfully connect the Barbie ship to the Rossi. And then that happy, smiles-filled moment when Dr. LV reassures Holden that everyone's blindness will be cured. Voila! There you have it. That is my ranking of the episodes of season 4. Very simplistic, yes, but it's just the way I express myself after watching each season. And also, it gives me an excuse actually to spend some time rewatching some of the episodes for certain parts that I want to understand a bit better, especially after reading some really awesome notes from many of you here on my channel as well as at my club. So, hopefully, you liked it for what it's worth. And now I'm going to prep myself to press play on episode 1 of the 5th season of The Expanse. And if you enjoyed this video, the best way you can show me is by following those prompts you see there at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, right around here. I'd really appreciate it. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and if you're so willing, please share with me in the comments what would have been perhaps your top 3 picks of the season. I'm really curious to know, but regardless of that, I am tuning out officially from season 4. Gonna get ready for season 5, so until then, peace out. Thanks for watching. Check out my other videos and subscribe. You know you wanna.